Power Rangers S.P.D. is a fan favorite Power Ranger season, and one that I personally remember from my childhood. Nearly 18 years after it first aired, my name is Red Ranger Ryder, and this is my review of Power Rangers S.P.D. As always, the first thing we're going to talk about with the Power Rangers season is the theme song. It's the first thing you hear, it plays during the battle, it's always stuck in your head, and if it's bad, it can really ruin a good show. Power Rangers S.P.D. at first, I didn't like their theme song, but it did grow on me. The thing I don't like, I think, is the S.P.D. emergency. Once you get rid of that, in the battle scenes, it's actually a pretty solid theme song. It's not the best, it's nowhere near the best, but it's a solid upper mid-tier. One of the things remembered most fondly from S.P.D. is the story, and I gotta say, it's pretty good. There's some things that definitely feel rushed, but nothing feels out of place, if that makes sense. Like Jack. At the end, they do set up his arc, but it's like one episode before the penultimate. So like there is setup, and it doesn't feel out of place, it's rushed. A lot of things feel like that. For like 30 episodes, we feel like we're building towards this big thing with Grum, and you find out that he's not even really like the big bad, and he has his grudge on Kruger because he lost his ear. And the A Squad, they disappear in the beginning of the show, and they're gone. We never really know what's going on. There's little like vague teases that maybe something else is going on, but by the time they come back, they're defeated in one episode. Again, everything was set up. It just kind of like feels rushed, and maybe we should have had a couple episodes with A Squad instead of just one. But overall, it's a pretty good story. These characters all have arcs. They all feel real. It feels so refreshing to go back and see characters like this, because the past couple years of Power Rangers, we never really had like real feeling characters. So overall, I would say the story is good. It's not the best that Power Rangers ever been. I do think there are better, but it is a very good story. Next up is the villains, and you're going to see a running theme of me saying that everything is good, but not the best. And Grum is an example of that. He's a good villain. He's kind of like terrifying. He's strong. When he shows up, you feel like it's a big event. Oh man, something's going to happen. And they didn't really do anything to like capitalize on that feeling. In the final battle, he's like defeated super easily. He's not even like the big bad. Turns out he had a master or something that he conquers worlds for. But, I mean, it doesn't take away from the fact that for 3/4 of the season, he's a very good villain. His back and forth with Kruger is really good. And the other villains are same thing. Broodwing, Mora, even some of the one-off villains like Devastation, the Samurai, even Sky's friend from the Academy. They're fun, memorable villains. I just don't think that there's any like 10 out of 10 all-star villains. So, like I said, very good, just not the best. That leads us into the Rangers themselves. I'm not gonna lie, I've got some controversial opinions. First up is Jack, who I think is a very, very good Red Ranger. He's not S tier, but he's definitely like top of A tier. It's a very unique circumstance, and where he's like supposed to be the Red Ranger. Everyone can just like feel that he's the guy, but he doesn't want it. He doesn't want to be a Ranger. He wants to help people his way, and he has this arc of like learning that there are other ways to help people. And like I said, his send off is a little rushed, but it's still very satisfying. Then we go into Sky, who is most people's favorite of this show. I think he's good, but I think Jack is definitely the better Ranger. Sky is kind of insufferable in the beginning, and I get that's the point, but he's like too insufferable. I think at the end, even though you do end up liking him and root for him as the Red Ranger, I think that his beginning, he was too obnoxious. That doesn't mean he doesn't have some great moments when Jack lets him be the Red Ranger to take on, what's his name? The disappearing guy. I can't remember his name. If you can remember it, comment down below. But when he becomes the Red Ranger, you feel the emotion. You're so happy that happens. He's a good Ranger. But I just think in the beginning, they kind of went a little too far on making him like unlikable. Next up is Bridge, who I feel like he's a make or break character. He's really weird. And if you like that, he's going to be your favorite. If you don't like that, you're not going to like him one bit. I'm right in the middle. I do like him. Sometimes he's like too weird and too goofy and kind of annoying, but there are some times where he is just the most fun character to watch on the screen. Next up is S.P.D, who might be my favorite character in this season, other than Jack. She's really likable. She's a great Pink Ranger, and she's a classic, like, don't judge a book by its cover. She is a girly girl Pink Ranger, but she's strong, she's independent, she thinks for herself, and she's not to be messed with. Plus, over the season, we see her bond with her friends, and especially like sharing her birthday with Jack. She really cares for them, and that's something that I don't know if you see with the other Rangers as much. Then we have Z, who, in the beginning of the show, they really were building her up, and then right about the halfway point, they just kind of quit caring with her, and she didn't really have like any focus. She's not a bad Ranger by any means, but she's just a classic case of the Power Rangers writing staff losing focus. And finally, we have the 6th and extra Ranger of Shadow Ranger and the Omega Ranger, Dory Kruger and Sam. I'm just going to kind of bunch them together because they don't do much. They're both really cool. They just don't get a lot of screen time. We don't really get to spend a lot of time with them. Sam never even can become like a human. He's just this ball of white light, which I'm sure they didn't want to spend the special effects to have him around all the time. And Kruger, he's really cool as the Shadow Ranger, but he only comes for like the big battles when he's really necessary. Something I will mention I think is really cool about the Shadow and the Omega Ranger, to kind of like distinguish them. When the Shadow Ranger first appears, all the Power Rangers just think they can take a step back and let him do all the work. But when the Omega Ranger comes, they'll get really jealous and they want to be the ones, on the front lines. So I think it's really cool that, they did something to make these two Rangers feel different. Next up is the Zords, and these are very good. These are very good Megazords. Probably the most fun I've had watching Zord battles and Zord combinations. The SWAT Megazord is my favorite. I love the Delta Command. I love the Omega Ranger Zord. All the combinations. It's really cool, but the SWAT Megazord is definitely my favorite. And finally, we have the supporting cast, who, they're good. We don't have a whole lot of supporting characters. We really only have Cat, Boom, and Piggy, which are all good. Piggy I didn't like in the beginning, but he definitely grew on me. Boom, same thing. I didn't know if I was going to like him. Really liked him by the end. And Cat, I really wish we could have seen more of her as the Cat Ranger, but I'm just happy we got to see her at all. So what do I think of Power Rangers S.P.D? I think it's a good season. I don't think it's the best, like a lot of fans seem to think it is, but it's definitely up there. It was a very enjoyable watch. The characters, well, not all of them are perfect. They're definitely fun. And some of them have a lot of heart, and they're entertaining watching. It has some good fights. I forgot to mention the team-up episode with Dino Thunder. Really cool, even though we didn't get to see Tommy in there. Kind of wish we would have. But overall, I just had a lot of fun watching this season. Overall, I'm going to give Power Rangers S.P.D a 7.5. Let me know what you thought of Power Rangers S.P.D down in the comments below. While you're down there, also let me know what season you want to see me review next. I'm watching a couple different ones at the same time, so chances are I might be watching your favorite right now. And if you let me know soon, maybe I can move that up to the top of the list and review it next. That's all for today. I've been Red Ranger Rider. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next time.